It was my honour just a few months ago to join our host Indwell and the then Associate Minister of Housing, Michael Parser, to announce funding for this new facility. Many thanks to Indwell for having us back again. And I'm joined today by my colleagues, the Minister of Finance, Peter Bethlenfalvy, and the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, Steve Clark. And also joining me today is Rudy Cozzetto from Mississauga Lakeshore. We're standing near the future site of 40 studio apartments for those that are at risk of homelessness, who will call this complex home. This facility will provide supportive housing for people dealing with mental health and addiction issues, racialized groups and homeless people, or those at risk of homelessness. Supportive housing is one of the best ways to address homelessness, to provide not just a roof over people's heads, but the services they need to stay housed. That's why our government continues to find ways to improve supportive housing, so those who are experiencing homelessness or at risk of homelessness can have a safe place to live and the supports they need to help get them back on their feet. Ontario's supportive housing system is complex and involves multiple ministries. Improving it is an ongoing process, and we're committed to continuing to work with our partners to make this critical system work better for those who depend on it. Last November, we met with key stakeholders and our partners from across the province to discuss how we can continue to improve Ontario's supportive housing system. Our government will be using this feedback to inform our work and help improve the lives of those people who are most at risk of experiencing homelessness in our communities. And I'd now like to invite Minister Bethlenfalvy to say a few words.
Well, thank you, Minister Tangri, and good morning, everyone. It's great to be here again in Streetsville at the future home of 40 supportive housing units right behind us here. I'd like to give a special thanks to Indwell for hosting myself, Minister Steve Clark, Minister Nina Tangri, and some of our incredible members of Provincial Parliament, including the MPP Rudy Cozzetto, and a great parliamentary assistant at Treasury Board. I recently delivered the 2023 Ontario budget, Building a Strong Ontario. This plan is our targeted approach to support those who need it the most today, while laying a strong fiscal financial foundation for future generations. Ce plan est notre approche ciblée pour aider ceux et celles qui en ont le plus besoin aujourd'hui, tout en établissant des solidarités financières pour les générations futures. It's a plan that will grow Ontario's economy and build the housing, build the schools, build the hospitals, and build the transit that our province needs. It's a plan to train the workers of today and tomorrow. It's a plan to keep costs down and support our most vulnerable. And it's a plan for us to do all of this while returning Ontario to a balanced budget next year. Ce plan nous permettra de réaliser tous ces objectifs tout en équilibrant le budget de l'Ontario dès l'an prochain. Now, like the rest of the world, Ontario is navigating uncertain economic times. The squeeze many are feeling due to the rising cost of high inflation is especially tight and difficult for the most vulnerable. Building a strong Ontario means offering a hand up to those who have fallen on hard times. And sadly, many around us don't have a roof over their head or a place to call home. Our government continues to be there for these neighbours. Our plan is building more affordable and supportive housing. We want everyone to have the chance to live happier, healthier, and more fulfilling lives in Ontario. And we have the right Premier with the right team behind us to do just that. Together, we're building a strong Ontario we can all be proud of, not only for today, but into the future. So now it's my distinct pleasure to turn things over to the great Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, and my friend Steve Clark. Thank you.
Thanks, Peter. Thanks so much, Minister Bethlenfalvy. Minister, you've done such a tremendous job shepherding our province's finances through the pandemic and the economic challenges of the last year. It's thanks to your careful management that our province is on such a sound fiscal footing today and is able to make important investments like the one we're here to talk about. I'd also like to recognize Nina Tangri, our Associate Minister. It's such a pleasure to be in your home community today and to celebrate the great work that's being done to provide supportive housing for Ontarians in need. I'm excited to work with you and to work with you in your new role within our ministry. It's great to be on our team together, so thank you. Finally, I'd like to thank the tremendous partnership we have with Indwell. Thank you for hosting today's event and for the important work that you do providing supportive housing to vulnerable Ontarians. As Minister Tangri mentioned, Ontario is in a housing supply crisis. It has made home ownership difficult for people who want to buy a home, and even more difficult for people who don't have a home, Ontarians experiencing homelessness. That's why we're investing an additional $202 million every year in our homelessness prevention programs. That represents more than a 40% increase in funding to support vulnerable people in our province, bringing our total annual investment to nearly $700 million. This investment includes an additional $190.5 million annually in our homelessness prevention program, or HPP. We always have to have a little saying in our ministry program, so HPP. This is a total investment in HPP of nearly $654 million, well over that $500 million mark. The homelessness prevention program helps service managers provide housing, including supportive housing and other supports for people either experiencing or at risk of being homeless. We are also investing an additional $11.5 million annually in our Indigenous supportive housing program, which brings our total investment in that program to over $41.5 million every year. This program provides culturally appropriate housing assistance and support services to Indigenous people who are homeless or at risk of being homeless. The money can be used for both capital, so building and operating, and services and supports, basically the expenses of our homes. I want to be crystal clear this morning. This funding represents precisely the sort of support our municipal and Indigenous partners have been asking for. It's predictable, stable, and a significant increase over previous funding. And it gives our local service managers the flexibility to direct funds to their local priorities when it comes to fighting homelessness. I'm so pleased to be able to make this announcement today and connect our efforts to fight homelessness with our broader efforts to tackle the housing supply crisis in Ontario. But folks, make no mistake, Ontario needs more homes, and we need them now. That's why our government is continuing to take bold action. We've introduced a range of measures to increase housing supply, including not-for-profit housing, and we can see their growing and positive impact. We know it will take time for the impact of our changes to be fully felt, but we will continue to move forward with policies that are aimed at ensuring we reach our goal of 1.5 million homes by 2031. So people across Ontario can find homes that meets their needs and their budgets. Thank you for coming.
Great, thank you. Now we'll go to the floor for questions. One and one follow-up.
Hi, it's me. It's Colin.
Hi, Colin.
Hi. This is a question for you, Minister Clark. So your government is about to start auditing all of the municipalities to take a look at, their finances. Are you limiting the scope specifically just to development charges, how much they're pulling in, and how much how they're spending it, or is this more of a holistic audit? And by the end of the audit, if you find that municipalities like Toronto don't have enough money, as an example, is your ministry committing to make them whole?
Yeah, and that's a great question, Colin. So we were so pleased. I had a chance Friday morning to meet with Deputy Mayor McKelvey. We had a great meeting. I want to thank the Deputy Mayor and Toronto Council for approving the terms of reference of our first audit, which will be for the City of Toronto. We are obviously looking at the development charge administration as part of the process to get shovels in the ground at the municipal level. We're also looking at the reserve funds. So the terms of reference really lays our framework for that operation. And at the end of the day, we'll work collaboratively if we find that there are revenue issues that are created because of the audits. We've indicated to municipalities we're going to be partners. We're not going to hang them out to dry. It's a collaborative process, and I couldn't have had a more collaborative meeting than I had with Deputy Mayor McKelvey on Friday. So I'm very excited and happy that audit number 1 is ready to go.
And on another issue, we're in Mississauga. A lot of people in Mississauga are wondering when the regional facilitation process is actually going to begin. You made this announcement last November. Bonnie Crombie and others had been wondering since January. They were indicated that it would start earlier this year and end in this calendar year. So what's the holdup with these regional facilitators? When can we see them, and when will that process finish?
Well, we're moving forward with the facilitators, Colin. Obviously, when we announced that every region is going to be part of a review, that's a lot of municipalities. We're working through the facilitator process. We're hopeful and optimistic we'll have some good news soon. We'll have some procurements, and we'll be able to be in a position to deliver on the promises that the government made. It's just it's taking a little more time than I had expected, but I'm again very confident that we'll have good news soon.
And just one more question for me. You mentioned 1.5 million homes. There are some who are now saying that those targets are not going to meet the demand in terms of the number of people who will be choosing Canada as their home. Is 1.5 enough over the course of time by 2031, or do you need to increase that threshold to 1.8 million as an example?
Well, I think there's a growing constituency out there who, right after our Housing Affordability Task Force tabled their report for 1.5 million homes, and there were others at the time that had a similar number. Immediately after our report, CMHC came forward and used the 1.8 million homes as an aspect. We're going to continue to do everything we can to hit that 1.5 number by 2031. But as I've said to Minister Bethlenfalvy many times, there's things out of my control, right? So interest rates, inflation in our country is at a point where I can only control things that are in my purview. So I want to ensure that everything that I can do at the provincial and also with our municipal partners is in place, so when the economy takes that bit of an upturn, that we can get shovels in the ground and get not only closer to 1.5, but given the immigration targets that the federal government have laid down, I'm hoping for even more. But it is a big number. I know that better than anybody, but I need to make sure that I do everything I can at my own level of government.
Okay, well, for me.
Great. Thank you. That's it for questions.
All right. Thank you, everyone.